reason for that. I want to do a little bit more teaching in that area about this to open up to you what the Bible proposes and teaches. Say, I'm a giant killer.
I'm a giant killer.
Come on, say it. Talk about it. This ain't no trick. I'm a giant killer. I'm a giant killer. Tell them, I'm anointed to take giants down. That's right. I'm looking for the biggest, baddest. That's right. What we used to say in school, the bigger they come, the harder they come. That's my spirit. I'm a giant. I'm looking at I ain't looking for, there ain't no glory in beating up on nobody, you know. Y'all told y'all last Sunday about the fight I had in second grade. And I didn't tell y'all he was taller than me. So he got embarrassed by the second grader, you know. He got beat down, but I got glory. I whooped up on a third grader. He won't be messing with no second grader no more. I hit him with everything I had, and then got punished for it. Like, man, this life ain't fair sometimes. But that's. I'm gonna go somewhere with this. I want you to pay attention here, because I'm gonna cover some things that I don't normally go this far and deep into certain areas. Because, you know, I know people need meat that they can chew and digest right away and run on about their business. But today we're gonna park a little bit here. So I wanna talk about these giant killers. There are. I want to open this up too, because I want to show you this. Israel was dealing with giants in the land of Canaan. Here in 1 Samuel 17, David kills Goliath. That's what it's about. Who also is a giant. Goliath, the giant from Gath, Philistine, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. They translate that as 9 feet 9. Some translation says 10:4, others say 11 feet. The consensus of is somewhere between 9 and 10. And so they translate it as 9 feet 9. So you kind of can understand why Israel said we like grasshoppers and we are in our own sight. Can you imagine standing up against a person that's 9 feet 9? You know, you got to have some faith. Well, that's a pretty big fella. See, when you talk about it in reality, you see, you kind of understand something. So when they say we are like grasshoppers, they weren't exaggerating. People say, oh, they did. Well, that is true. They did see themselves in a diminished way. But when you really translate that, those were some pretty big fellas. And they were warriors. So David came up on one of the giants. Now, later on in life, David was almost killed. And after that, they didn't allow David to go in battle no more. He was in his chariot. And actually, Goliath's brother's son came at David when he saw him. It was Goliath's nephew. I taught that years ago. That saw David, and he recognized the king's chariot. And he went after it. And he almost caught him to kill him. Except for Abner's brother, who also was a leading general in David's army, was able to see what was going on. He saw the giant coming for David and was going for the chariot. He recognized that was David's chariot. And realizing what was going on, he made haste with everything he had to get to David's chariot. And truly, the nephew of Goliath had gotten to the chariot. But Abner's brother, I can't recall his name right now, took a spear, a javelin, because he couldn't reach whatever, and threw it. And that's where he struck the giant, was able to get to him. And then I think he cut off his head, something of that nature. And when that happened, they said David was older and slower and a little bit weary. And so when it was told them, they took David in off the battlefield and said, from this day forward, you will not battle that much. You won't go to battle. You don't mind put a battery. Thank you so much. You won't go to battle from this day forward. We'll give you a report, but we don't want to expose you as the king. to a situation when he was almost killed. That was Goliath's nephew. But here's the thing I want to bring out on that right quick. In the same way that Israel was fearful of the giants in Canaan exposition, here it is hundreds of years later. Matter of fact, it was about 800 years later that this happened. They are once again faced with the giant. And the scripture says that Goliath came out to challenge all Israel. Send me out a man to fight. If he kills me, we'll be your servant. I kill him, you all will be my servant. King Saul would not go to fight. He was afraid to. And all Israel, back here should be all right. All Israel. Thank you, excuse me. All Israel was afraid. 800 years later, they're faced with the same situation. 800 years later, they're scared. It took a shepherd's boy that didn't have enough sense to be afraid. It was him bringing water and food to his brothers who were already a part of the military that heard the chairman Goliath talking what he was saying, and he said, who is this uncircumcised, really cursed, uncircumcised, unsaved, no name, talking about the God of Israel? That he would have the audacity to put his name on God, the God of Israel. And so David said, what's the problem? He's a giant. Can I make this interjection and I move on? That's why you got to deal with stuff. Because if you don't deal with it, years later, it's going to show up again in your family because you didn't deal with it. Had they obeyed God 800 years earlier, we wouldn't even have this scenario. But because they could not do it 800 years later, a repeat. So this is why we get things that life happens in cycles. The cycles keep repeating. That's why you got to take control of certain cycles, but they're going to show back up. Here it is now. Israel was fearful in the wilderness, died. 800 years later, they're confronted with us, and now it's only a few giants, not a whole bunch of them that are left. But he was such a warrior. He challenged them, and they couldn't meet the challenge. So King Saul sent out a word that any man that go out and fight him, tell him he ain't gonna want for nothing the rest of his life. Now that's what I call hiding behind your kingship. He was 9 feet 9. All the men of Israel went and saw the man. Look what they did. Fled from him. Isn't that what Israel did in the wilderness? Yes. We can't defeat them people. They taller than us. Their walls are walled up into heaven. These are great people. They tall, they mighty, warriors. We going back to Egypt. We should have died there. We should have never even followed Moses out here. That was fear talking. 800 years later, they still talking fear. Fled from him. And look what it is. Dreadfully afraid of him. You got a whole army versus one man. Y'all couldn't gang rush him? Isn't that what we do? I mean, y'all have been in those kind of things too. When you're scared of somebody, you don't go by yourself. You gang rush them. You get a few other people who's scared, and together we can take you down. You got a military. You can't gang rush him. You can't take an arrow and shoot him from a distance. You are so afraid of what he'll do to you. So you got a whole army that's dreadfully scared of one man. And this is nothing but a repeated cycle. So the men of Israel said, talking to David the lad, it shall be that the man who kills him will be enriched. He ain't gonna go for nothing. So I came from that you kill the giant and you're gonna be rich. He just said, the man who kills him, that's what King Saul. He gonna marry the daughter of the king. He gonna live in the palace. He gonna wear royal clothes. He ain't gonna want for nothing. Kill the giant and you're gonna be rich. Sounds simple, I know. I don't know you're saying this, but Pastor, you don't see the giant. Yes, I see the giant. So Israel dealt with the giant. It failed in establishing it. 800 years later, David is dealing with a giant. David does what Israel should have done 800 years earlier. Go in, because God was with him. While a nation, a military was afraid, one shepherd boy. One shepherd boy took a slingshot and took him down. I didn't kill him, it took him down. Hit him so hard and knocked him unconscious. Really what plays out. And David, not having a sword, went and put his foot up on him, or not, pulled his own sword from his side, raised his own sword and cut his head off and took it to Saul. He cut his head off with his own sword. Kill the giant